Sunday night, 7 on the dot. Turn it up, give it all you got. Stories and facts, let it unfold. Strange little truths in the tales we're told. Cat Hobson's on, and the air feels alive. Questions in the dark come back to life. UFO lights in the shadowed signs. Paranormal calls through the phone lines. Lean in close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio, tune in, tune in. A name on the screen, a knock at the wall. Footsteps fading down the hall. Old reports and a brand new lead. Every caller has a different seed. From www.fatemag.com, straight to your speakers, then you're gone. 7 p.m. Central Time. One more mystery in your mind. Lean in close, don't look away. Something in the static wants to say, open that door, let the wonder in. Sunday night starts once the signal spins. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio, tune in, tune in. If you ever felt that chill, if you ever heard come still, there's a place for the questions you keep, where the odd and real don't sleep. Fake magazine, radio, Cat Hobson, take me there. Fake magazine, radio, Sunday nights in the air. UFOs and the unexplained, facts and stories, sweet and strange. Fake magazine, radio, tune in, tune in. Sunday night, 7 Central. Fake magazine, radio, FakeMag.com.
I have to tell you that I absolutely love that intro that Carl made. He is a guru. He is fantastic with computer stuff that I am not so good with. And I love that he made us an ad for this. So go, Carl. He's always amazing. Now, I am Kat Hobson, and I am the host of Fate Mag Radio, which is the voice of Fate Magazine. And I am so glad that you're here tonight. You know, I'm really, really fortunate to get to do what I do. I do the Fate Magazine show, and I also do Paranormal Experienced with Kat Hobson, which I founded and started 10 years ago. So I'm very, very fortunate. And I'm also fortunate to live in the South, but not this week. So if you are out there and you have to be out and about, you be careful and hydrate, because I was outside at a football game yesterday, little kids football game, which he did really good at. And my 4-year-old daughter, Amelia, won the Spirit Stick, and that was a really big deal. And her mom loved it too. So it was hot. So if you were outside, be careful. So every so often, I just get a wild hair. And I love Fate magazine. I always loved Fate magazine. And I am I'm a ghost hunter too. It's so nice to meet you. And you know, there's going to be a lot of paranormal coming out of these magazines tonight. I'm just telling you, it's going to be so much fun. But when we get started, you know, Fate magazine has been in publication since 1947. And it is really, if you go back through these editions, and I'll show you the covers are works of art. And literally, you can get them as posters and such as that. But I'm not going to go in any particular date order because I just, you know, there's so much out there. We've got some features. Y'all have to excuse my high-tech bookmarks, okay? But this is from November of 2007. And, well, too much light. I'll just hold it back here by me. But it's so pretty. And they are kind of a glossy cover, so that doesn't help any with this. And then this is December 2007. I'm going to cut this little light for a second. That did not really do much good. Oh, I'll just hold it back here. And then, if you're seeing a trend here, this is that period. This is the one with the Jim Morrison cover. And this is from July, August of 2008. Now, this one is really something I like a lot. This cover is relevant to the Betty and Barney Hill experience. This is from April of 2007. And their niece is somebody that I respect a whole lot too, Kathy Martin. Now this is pretty interesting. This is from September of 2007. And it has an article by John Keel in it relevant to Mothman. We're going to hit on that. It's a long article. We're not going to just do it. And then this one is October of 2007. And I particularly liked it because it had haunted inns. And I like inns. So there's that. But then, you know, James Dean's death car is part of this. John Wilkes Booth escaped manhunt is part of that. So I'm going to be sharing these. And I have a great big Radio Trap Rock cup that is completely full. So that will help get through the reading part. Because you can ask Carl, sometimes my throat gets dry. But it's so neat to be able to share these. And you can order anything, any edition that you want, you can order at fatemag.com. Fate magazine has recently changed hands. And Phyllis would not have sold it if she didn't know that he was excellent. So you can still get whatever you need. And Phyllis is still very much involved with, you know, helping with that. So, do you want to get started? Do y'all have any news of the world that we need to share? Do I have any news of the world that I need to share? Other than the 4-year-old one, the spirit stick, which really made her mom happy. But I do want to let you know that we're going to be traveling a lot through these magazines, through these stories tonight. And I've got a few stories in each edition. And if we run out of time, we run out of time. And we have others to go to if we don't run out of time. So I just love this. And I hope you enjoy it too, because it's one of my favorite things to do. And like I said, there's spacecraft, there's aliens, there's the other world. There's, I was really interested because one of these is on how spirit boxes are made. And I don't know why I'm freezing. Why am I freezing? don't understand that. We will just see what happens and we will roll with it. And I will move slowly and talk slowly. I'm just kidding. I know that doesn't have anything to do with it. Now, and I don't have my phone, so that's not doing anything. If it continues to be an issue, I will fix that. What do you want to start with? Carl, do you have a particular one that you wanted to start with? All right. He says no. So we will go. I'm always starting in the back. And Carl, I'm going to step away. If you will chit chat for a moment and maybe pull my camera down, and I'm going to go and do this internet thing.
Okay, folks, Kat will be back here in a little bit. She's having technical difficulties right now. So, but everybody go to www.fakemag.com, sign up, and get your magazines. So, how's everybody doing tonight? See where you're at and where you're from. No, we're not Fox News reporters and everything. We do a lot of podcasts. Kat's been doing it for several years now, over 10 years. So I'm just a producer in the background, but helping her out. And she'll be back here in a second. We'll see what she does. Are you ready, Kat? Nope, she's not ready. She's trying to get something done on there. But everybody tell your friends to join in. You're going to love some of these stories that are brought out of the magazine and stuff. And if you'd like to, what's nice about Fake Mag is if you have a story, write it and submit it to them, and they'll put it in the magazine for you. So always do that. As soon as Kat gives me the thumbs up, we'll let her go and bring her back.
Okay, I'm hoping that fixed it. I am kind of a technical guru, but I am not always a great technical guru. So we will find out. Depends on what the problem was. I believe I have it taken care of. So, as I said, this is the December 2007 edition. And it's just, I just love angels. But one of the stories in it are angels are everywhere. And in this list of contents, we have angels we have heard all around us. What dwells above. Like I'm trying to hold it up so you can see it, but that light's just a little too strong there. Bell Dalton Bridge, Animals Talk Back, which we're going to feature. Beyond the Dark. And it's really interesting because the Haunted Horton Grand Hotel we're going to feature from this edition also, and that was written by my friend Richard Sennett. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And it's interesting because every edition has I See by the Papers, which was a column written by Phyllis Scotty, who was the owner and editor of Fate for quite some time. And it's the page right behind the contents, and it's just it's interesting because she goes through the headlines of the day and shares information from it. And it's neat because in this particular one, this is so timely because this is from 2007, and this was one of the articles that she found, and she comments on NASA forced to release UFO docs. What do you think of that? 2007. And UFO Group Coalition for Freedom of Information has successfully forced NASA to turn over documents pertaining to the 1965 Kecksburg, Pennsylvania UFO incident through the settlement of a lawsuit the group had brought against the space agency. So there have been Citizens United for disclosure for a long time. And as a result of NASA's refusal to release its records concerning the Kecksburg case, CFI filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit in 2003 as part of a broader FOIA campaign supported by the Sci-Fi Channel. The U.S. District Judge Emmett G. Sullivan approved the settlement that requires NASA to comb through documents about the UFO case and provide copies to Leslie Kean, you know that name too, right? Investigative journalist with CFI and plaintiff in the lawsuit. NASA is also required to declassify any relevant documents, explain any redactions, and to pay Kean's legal fees as part of the settlement. Following the settlement announcement, Kean said, "Finally, we hope to acquire the relevant documents about Kecksburg that are required by law. I look forward to working with NASA on the resolution of the terms set out by the court and to providing the public with the information it's been waiting for." John Podesta, y'all know that name too, a former chief of staff for President Clinton, who has been a vocal supporter of Kean's effort, said of the landmark settlement, "The time to pull the curtain back on this incident is long overdue. Leslie Kean's victory is a triumph for open government and the spirit of inquiry." Kean's attorney, Lee Helfrich, was also quite pleased with the outcome. "It is unprecedented to have achieved success at forcing an agency to do this kind of extensive historical search under FOIA without congressional intervention," he stated. Coalition for Freedom of Information. So, I really think that that's something that Leslie Kean was sitting in that courtroom when in that Senate hearing room when Nancy Grace and her colleagues were speaking to the pilots who interacted with the UFOs over the Pacific. And I have to think that she would feel very proud to have been part of this for so long and to see this work still coming to fruition. She is a dang good journalist, and she is a great researcher, great writer too. But the tenacity to go up against the government and that nature was something else. I mean, really and truly something else. I think that I wish more people would fight for what they believe in like she does. I think she's a great role model, and I'm really proud that she was part of this part too, because I'm not gonna lie, she is bad to the bone in the very best way. And now we're going to go to, and sometimes I get started a little too quick, so that's just a thing. But we got plenty to go to if I run out. We're going to come down here to Richard Sennett's story, The Haunted Horton Grand Hotel. It says, "Was that the smell of Wyatt Earp's cheroot?" So let's go and see. That is going to be this page. I got to tell you, I mean, the graphics through some of this. I mean, look at that cute little parrot. I'm a parrot head, as you couldn't tell by my tripod, cut. But it says, "Alex wants a nut." So I haven't finished that story yet. I just saw it and was like, oh, look. Well, that's not the right page. 35. Helps if you know what you're doing. Now, this is written by Richard Sennett, who is a paranormal dude and a half. He is, I've interviewed him a couple of times back in the day, and you can probably still find those online somewhere. I'll see if I can't find it and get it shared. But he is a terrific ghost hunter, and he was a ghost hunter before that was a thing. He has been a paranormal researcher for decades, and he's a lot of fun too. But that is an image of the haunted Horton Hotel. So, Horton Grand Hotel, I'm so sorry. I think it's gorgeous. I love old hotels, haunted hotels. I stayed at the Cedar Key Inn I don't even think it's still there after the last hurricane that hit Cedar Key. But it was the first time that I actually got pinched. And I thought it was a bite. It was very bizarre. But at least I didn't have the guy come in my room. They have people, there's a ghost that comes into rooms, although maybe that's who pinched my toe. But nobody died, so it was all good. And this is The Haunted Horton Grand Hotel by Richard Sennett. The Horton Grand Hotel has a strange mixture of age and otherworldliness. Even from the street, one can feel that this restored Victorian inn isn't a normal place. It stands off a narrow street, quiet and tucked away among the ornate, opulent Victorian nightmare of San Diego's Gaslight Quarter. This section of town was once the infamous Red Light District, where painted ladies of the night serviced the sailors of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. This section of town has been restored and converted to a tourist zone. Trendy restaurants and pubs now reside where colorful madams and gamblers once ruled. Over the decades, the Horton Grand has seen it all. Much has been... I am adding words left and right. My apologies. Over the decades, the Horton Grand has seen it all. Much has taken place within her elegant brick walls. Perhaps it's natural that so much life and death has left. Perhaps it's natural that so much life and death has left an indelible imprint on the hotel, for there are rumors of ghosts here. It was these tales that inspired my wife and I, he's got a lovely wife, to visit the Horton Grand. What we thought would be a pleasant weekend would present us with many mysteries and even a run-in with an unexpected ghost, that of celebrated Westerner Wyatt Earp. When we walked in, we were greeted by a cadaverous-looking clerk with yellow-toothed smile, who was dressed in costume of the 1880s. My word, I'm sorry, people. And for a brief second or two, I thought he might be a ghost himself. He was as pale as one. We checked in, and I asked about ghosts. The desk clerk's smile vanished. He quietly turned and produced a faded Xerox of a Xerox that told of the ghost of room 309 called Roger. That room was taken for the night, but our target was a haunted wooden staircase where many visitors have reported seeing ghostly women, men, and children, all dressed in the styles of the late 19th century. We secured a room on the 4th floor near the wooden stairs. We made our way up to our room and found it was expansive, with an ornate fireplace and bay window. The bed was huge and comfortable. I looked out the window to the street below. The window was open, perhaps 8 to 10 inches. We could hear the street noise from passing cars below, as well as feel the breeze come into the room. I asked Debbie if I should close it. She said no, the air felt good. After having a wonderful meal at an Irish pub, we didn't partake in spirits, I might add. We returned to the hotel and went to bed. I recall asking again if I should close the window, and Debbie said not to bother. As I drifted off to sleep, I recall hearing the deep throb of rap music from a passing car. When we got up the next morning, I discovered the window was closed. I assumed Debbie had gotten up in the night and closed it. The room was quiet now. It wasn't long before Debbie asked me if I had closed the window. When I checked, I found the window closed and painted shut. It had not been open in a dozen years. Were we crazy? We both saw the thing open. I sat next to the window and tried to rationalize the event. Could it have been an optical illusion of some sort? If that was the case, what about the street noise and the breeze? No, something strange had happened in our room. The mystery would grow deeper. After dressing for breakfast, we exited our room and were surprised by the sweet smell of a cigar. The Horton is a non-smoking hotel establishment, and there wasn't any sign of anyone in the hallway smoking or not. We rationalized the scent as we made our way down the ornate wooden stairs. One psychic said she once saw 20 ghosts on those stairs. Fleeting images of the past are common in historic sites, and this is just the sort of place for such a retrocognitive event. Debbie stopped on the third floor landing. She was shivering all over, stiff as a statue. "There is someone here," she whispered. "It's a man. He wears a fancy vest. He's smoking a cheroot." I could see nothing out of the ordinary, but many times Debbie has picked up on things at haunted locations. I did not know if it was my imagination, but I smelled the odor of cigar once again. It was as if someone was blowing smoke in my face. As soon as it came, it was gone. I held Debbie, and slowly we went down the stairs. I don't recall what I said, but it was something about how it was just an impression, an old scent. He is a really good researcher. He knows that's not true, but he doesn't know it yet. It was at that point that I tripped over something on the last step. It felt like someone had stuck their foot out to trip me. I tried to stop my fall by clutching the banister, only to cut my hand. I fell like a ton of bricks onto the carpet. There was cold sweat all about me and a throbbing pain in my ankle. Had I been tripped by a ghost? Later, we went to the restaurant, best known for their elaborate English high teas, which I love. And I asked the manager about the strange event with the window. We were told that this happened all the time. There were moving shadows, phantom voices, and cold spots throughout the old hotel. Even the manager got spooked from time to time when the restaurant was dark. Off the lobby is a sort of drawing room, set up with comfortable 19th century sofas and chairs. The walls are lined with old photographs of the place, as it looked well over a century ago. One of the black and white photos was of a dark-eyed man with a large mustache. The small caption beneath the picture read, "Wyatt Earp." Earp lived at the hotel for 7 years after his lawman career ended in Tombstone, Arizona. "Hey," said Debbie in a hushed whisper. "That's the guy I saw on the stairs." It is said that Mr. Earp always slept with the window open, in the belief that fresh air was a healthy thing. Does the ghost of Wyatt Earp walk the halls of the Horton Grand Hotel? Perhaps we checked into his old room. And I'm going to tell you, I would not be surprised by that. Richard does a lot of work in the, what are they called? Like the old churches in Southern California. And he's got a lot of books out. So if you're into that, he's a good person to check into. And this is his photograph. Dadgummit. It's Wyatt Earp. That's Richard Sennett, a young Richard Sennett. But he's an historian for the city of Ventura, California, for 22 years before he retired in 2004. He's the author of 15 books, and that was in 2007. There's a lot more. In history and the paranormal. So he's really brilliant. And I don't know, I like people who have done that kind of work, that have been in that field for that long, because I think it's interesting. You know, we have so much around us, and I just think it's fascinating. But we will get back to that if we need to. He has a lot of really good work. You will not go wrong. If you get a chance to see him lecture, he does paranormal conferences and in Southern California. He's really a nice man. And man, does he have stories. Let's see what we have here. This is the July-August 2008 issue. The Jim Morrison's Weird Mysterious Death, and Easter Island Secrets, and The Real Indiana Jones. Those are the cover stories, okay? And there's so much that you can share out of these magazines. I really like sharing some of the, you can see by the, she sees by the papers, because It's kind of like opening a time capsule. Anytime you open a vintage Fate magazine, you are being struck with really cool conversation. And it's, in this instance, Phyllis's I see by the papers includes a report Fate is growing, which it does pretty often. At Vatican slams Virgin Mary sightings, and now I should probably get to that. Twist of Fate has I'm going to read you this one because it's just that sort of weird thing. Okay. Twist of Fate. A Georgian man who received a heart transplant 12 years ago and later married the donor's widow has died the same way his donor did, of a self-inflicted gunshot. 69-year-old Sonny Graham was found by authorities in a utility building in his backyard with a single gunshot wound. Graham was on the verge of congestive heart failure in 1995 when he got a call that a heart was available. The heart came from Terry Cottle, 33, who had committed suicide. Grateful for his new heart, Graham began writing letters to the donor's family to thank them. In January 1997, Graham met his donor's widow, Cheryl Cottle, and they fell in love. The couple married in 2004. Friends say Graham gave no indication that he was suicidal. His wife, Cheryl, now a widow for the second time, had no warning and is absolutely stunned over the bizarre similarities between Terry and Sonny's deaths. That would be beyond the pale. But I don't know. I mean, I just think it's I think it's kind of sad. Now this, more of I see by the papers, is a Bigfoot bounty. I love Bigfoot stories too. Binocular manufacturer Bushnell and Field and Stream magazine have teamed up to offer $1 million reward to anyone. They can provide an unaltered video or photograph that proves a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or Yeti exists. Photographs submitted will be reviewed by a panel of scientists and photo experts set up by Bushnell. The deadline to send in material is December 15th, 2008. Be careful on your hunt for that $1 million photograph, however. As the disclaimer of Field and Stream's website states, the sweepstakes entity shall not be liable for any injury, loss of life, damage, loss, expense, accident, delay, inconvenience, trespassing, illegal means of entry, or other federal, state, or local laws when obtaining the photo, video, or other irregularity that may be caused or contributed to obtaining a photograph for submission, or if they are attacked by a Bigfoot, or any other irregularity that may be caused or contributed to obtaining a photo or photographs for submission. Please use caution when taking photographs outdoors and in the wild, especially when using suits or costumes that resemble wild animals, gorilla, Sasquatch, or others. And that article came from Live Science, which I love Live Science. But yeah, got to cover your butt even then, right? I tell you, it's wild what a litigious society we are. And I'm going to bookmark this one. That's in here for if we have extra time. I love these magazines. I absolutely do, because they cover everything. We have been reading of documenting UFOs already. We have had weird smells in a hotel and an incident of going down, basically falling down. And it's just one of those things that it's like a time machine. but people were having these same experiences that we hear about and find ourselves then. So I think that's really cool. You cannot go wrong with a subscription to Fate. Now, this article is just a little longer. Ooh, this article might be a lot longer. Good heavens to Betsy. Well, I'm going to start it. And if it gets mundane and boring, we'll stop. But the topic is something that is near and dear, because I have a really good friend. He's a really good human, which means he's got a lot of really good friends that respect and care for him a lot. His name is Tony Rathman. And he and I met when I first started hadn't just started, but I was hosting Just Paranormal Experienced at the time. I had an evidence contest. And if you won the contest, then you got your own podcast. And I was going to pay for the setup of the podcast and everything that you would need to do that. Well, this dude submitted some of the best evidence I've ever seen and heard. And the person whose network I was on disappeared with my credit card number and all the stuff that, my accounts and such. And I lost my platform for a day or two, and Tony did also. But he came back gangbusters. He is now, if you have not heard of Staticom yet, you need to check that out, because he is an ITC guy. I got to use that a couple of years ago in Gettysburg, and just look it up. And he is making so many strides in the performance of this program. It is it's so complicated. To me, it's complicated. It is so cool. It's when we were in Gettysburg, it was eerie to me. We were in our hotel. There were all these people that came to see the demonstration. I didn't know Tony was going to be there. I covered that event as media, and it's Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. And it is wonderful. It helps wounded warriors and children with cancer. They have bought over the years multiple cars to take children back and forth for cancer treatments. They do a lot. But in this particular instance, I found out that Tony was there. I went down and sat in on the session, and it was amazing. And this box, it just communicates, for lack of a better explanation, because I don't know how it does it. And he and his partner, business partner with that, they're both geniuses, and their wives participate with that, and it's just really well. And Tony has been sick. And Tony, if you hear this, I just want you to know that I love you. I'm glad you're home. I'm glad that you and Sherry are doing so well. And I will always be your friend and have your back and keep you in my prayers. But I'm going to include some of this, because this is pre-Tony. And it says Exploring the World of the Box. And this is by Rick Moran, which I found interesting too. And it shows the interior of a Frank's box. Okay. So some call it a communication device to the dead. Others believe it is a tool to communicate with those from another dimension. And some even think you can use it to listen to extraterrestrials. Skeptics assert that is simply a noisy radio, and its users have overactive imaginations. I don't think so. Whatever it is, it's getting a lot of attention in the paranormal community. The box is more or less a radio receiver, something scanning the AM broadcast band, at other times FM, or even an amateur radio band. In the process of scanning, listeners hear what they believe are messages interspersed between the band's normal chatter. That sounds like an absurd claim until you hear the box for yourself, and I have heard one. Voices of unknown origin. While most folks think that the box is a new innovation, it is not. Shortly before his death in 1971, General David Sarnoff, former president of RCA and NBC, an icon of American telecommunications, told friends and colleagues that while as a young man working at as a wireless operator for the Marconi radio company, he often heard voices over his monitoring device. I didn't know that. Sarnoff was the first Marconi operator to hear the SOS calls from the ill-fated Titanic in 1912, so there is no reason to doubt his claims, though Marconi receivers lacked the technical ability to modulate voice. The first modern reception of voices harkens back to the experiments of Attila von Zelle, who was fascinated with recordings he was hearing of what he believed were spirit voices, later dubbed EVP, or electronic voice phenomena. Von Zelle first captured voices in 1936 on phonographic discs. He had better success with wire recorders in the 1940s, and by the 1950s, he was routinely recording spirit voices, one-way communications on recording tape. He was so successful that journalist and paranormal researcher Richard Bayless began to document von Zelle's experiments, culminating in a joint journal report for the American Society of Psychical Research in 1959. At virtually the same time, Marcello Bacci, an Italian, began experimenting with spirit communication using basic radio equipment. His vacuum tube radio was capable of receiving messages from the other side, which Bacci recorded. Meanwhile, also in Italy, two priests, Father Ernetti and Father Giornelli, captured voices, including responses to questions. On September 15, 1952, while the priests were recording a Gregorian chant, a magnetic microphone they were using broke. After repairs were made, the device failed again, and Giornelli asked rhetorically for assistance. When the tape was replayed, Giornelli's question was followed by the voice of male presence, who offered to assist. Another advance in EVP and spirit communications came in 1959, when Frederick Jurgensen began capturing human-sounding voices while attempting to record bird calls in the woods. But the real breakthrough came in 1971, when Paul Jones, G.W. Mack, and Hans Hackman began serious research into two-way communication with the departed. That study continued through the 1970s. Later, Meek introduced psychic William O'Neill to the mix, and with him a departed spirit, Dr. George Jeffries Mueller, who had died several years earlier. Mueller, a former Cornell professor and NASA collaborator, suggested enhancements to the group's receiver, and a 13-tone speech generator was added to a frequency generator to create a human voice. By 1980, SpiritCom, as it would be called, was at its height, and journalist researcher D. Scott Rego began his study of the phenomenon, which culminated in the book Telephone Calls from the Dead. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, SpiritCom and ITC, instrumental transcommunications, flourished, and new advances were made, including the use of television and computers. Researcher and Arthur Mark Macy was instrumental in creating joint projects between experimenters in America and Europe, culminating in a new group, the INIT. This group had even more spectacular results, most of which flew under the international media's radar. Most of the paranormal community remained unaware of these developments, with only basic EVP experiments garnering any real coverage. Setbacks and debates. In the year 2000, the flood of spirit communications came to a virtual stop, according to ITC practitioners. Some attributed This to a dissonance that clouded our spirit friends who were no longer able to come through into our world and work with our equipment. The focus of ITC was, at least to the casual observer, totally spirit-related, but not everyone in paranormal research was convinced. Some suggested that SpiritCom and ITC faced the same flaw researchers in the field of spirit communication have met for more than a century. All of these experiments required the energy of a psychic. The various devices simply represented the introduction of technology as the mediums into the spirit communication equation. Others went so far as to suggest that such communications would never be practical without the intervention of a divine spirit, hinting that any other communications with the other side had to be demonic in nature. Several have suggested that the operators were communicating with other dimensions, not the spirit world. It was not just the ITC and SpiritCom followers that were hearing voices where they could not rationally be. Engineers at NASA were experiencing similar communications. NASA had been involved in the Earth Sounds project for a decade and even created a radio kit to be distributed to school teachers throughout the country as a science project. The NASA Earth Sounds receiver tuned into the ultra-low radio spectrum, a place where there is no human communications. But along with the crackling and buzzing heard by school-age astronauts in training, human voices were also reported. A swarm of teachers began to write to NASA about the curious signals, asking if perhaps they had made an error when assembling the kit. The NASA engineer who designed the radio responded that there was nothing wrong in either the design or the students' assembly, and admitted that NASA too had heard voices. There had to be a reasonable explanation, said NASA, but none was immediately forthcoming. Frank's box. With all of this was simmering news. Well, while all of this was simmering away, another concept entered. Frank's box, created by Colorado neighbor Frank Sumpton, a ham radio operator and electronic technician. Frank's device was a radio, pure and simple. No special blessings or incantations were required. The box simply scanned the AM broadcast band and played bits and pieces of what it heard. The reason for Frank's creation now seems fogged in mystery, although the popular story was that he wanted to create a desktop radio like a ham rig through which folks could listen for possible extraterrestrial communications, shades of Mel Gibson movie Signs, in which the stars listened to space invaders over an old baby monitor. What Frank got from his first box was apparently not what he expected, but it was exactly what ITC was looking for. Amidst the gibberish of AM radio snippets, the device could really communicate. As word of the new device spread, Frank was inundated by requests from people who wished to obtain one, but he had never intended to go into manufacturing. Frank reportedly created new boxes as suggested by the beings that communicated with him via the first device, but he had many other demands on his time. Frank makes his own boxes by hand, each slightly different. There are now 31 Frank's boxes in existence. There is also a device called the Joe's box, which scans the FM broadcast band. The Association for the Study of Unexplained Phenomena, USUP, Inc., of which I am a coordinator, the author, is a 35-year-old research group that made its name as debunkers of the Amityville horror. We also collaborated with early spirit communications researchers Ray Bayless and Scott Rogo. Frustrated by our inability to secure a box from Frank for real study, we decided it would be necessary to build one ourselves. I don't know why everybody doesn't do that, except that they may be like me and not technically inclined. I am a licensed ham operator, so I went to the USUP's Director of Research and Development, Engineer Ron Ricketts, also a ham, to suggest the project. At first, Ricketts wanted nothing to do with it, but through my constant harassment, he agreed to take a shot at a prototype. We worked on the idea for over a month until one day when Ricketts was contemplating a serious modulation problem in his design. The box, just a jumble of wires and components strewn over a workbench, but fully powered, announced Ricketts. The engineer shot straight up in his chair as if he had dreamed the event. Once again, the secretary called out his name loud and clear, Ricketts. Ron Ricketts now says he felt like Dr. Frankenstein when his monster began to talk. A born skeptic, he believed, as I did, that the box effect was probably a quirk of noise that human observers were matrixing into intelligible communications. But over the next several months, at various stages of development, the mini box continued to chatter on in clear English and in contrast to the situation at hand. Context to the situation at hand. The first field test of the device was held at Richardson Regional Medical Center in Texas. Ricketts gave a rudimentary overview of how to tune the device to USGP researchers, then allowed one group to play with the mini box. At one point, the mini box was asked, "Who created you?" The mini box shot back, "Rick." "You mean Ricketts, Ron Ricketts, right?" the researcher asked. "No, Rick," replied the box. The mini box was correct. While Ricketts had designed the device, I, Rick, was responsible for the mini box's creation. These are not the right glasses. I'm sorry if I'm getting all these words a little backwards because the letters don't look quite right. So I am going to leave it there. And this is the July-August 2008 edition. So go and get it because it just goes on from there to working with the box and do it yourself. It says those on a limited budget, I'm going to read this part. Those on a limited budget or who really like to experiment can go the route of what is now affectionately known as the hack. We're talking about a shack hack. A Radio Shack model RS-469 an RX-470 AM/FM portable radio that can be modified to scan much like the other boxes. While more noisy than any of the others, the hack operates in much the same way with similar results. Operators tend to bond with their devices and each has a loyal following. The ASGP study is now well on its way, but we make no claims about our device or any of the others. Officially, USGP states that they do not show preference to any one device and have now been able to test them all. There's been some concern over claims being made that the box will only work for a limited few individuals who are somehow meant to have them, or that the box is somehow a portal to the demonic. The mini box is a box, some radio components, a power supply, and little more, said ASGP's Director of Research, Joy Maynard. If you hear something coming through that you don't want to hear, you have the option to turn it off, pure and simple. As best we have found, the piece of electronic equipment that eliminates the need for the psychic medium to communicate with the departed. If some demonic entity wants to use it as a portal, the operator can just kill the power. And that is that. At worst, it's being called an electronic Ouija board, but unlike a board or a psychic medium, you can turn this medium off. When asked if the mini box or any other boxes solves the question of survival after death, Ron Ricketts just smiles. No, not at all. We have no idea who or what we're communicating with or how, for that matter. When asked the question, the answer is often unprovable. Yes, the box answers in context, which is remarkable in some ways. We have a long way to prove that there is not some very strange matrixing going on. The experiments we are reporting from our research are interesting, but certainly not conclusive. So, go and check that out. Because, I've got a friend of mine has that DS one, and I find that so irritating. That I don't have one because I would love to have one, but trying to find them is a little difficult. But it's really the most interesting thing because they do give you immediate feedback. And the people that I know that listen to them often, because it is tough to to pick it out. It's not always clear speech. And when it's not, I find it very annoying. So, but to actually work with one, there is a lot of really good stuff that comes through. And I don't know, I still use my SB7s and such, and I do feel like I get good reaction with those and good clear communication with those too. And I use it on every random sweep. I have everything moving in different directions when I'm using one. And I get good EVPs, and I'm very fortunate with that because I believe in what I do. I think it matters. I think that I know that there's stuff out there. I know that there's human interaction. I have heard family members, and those voices don't change. But I think that I don't know. You have to write and tell me what you think, because it's just one of those things that it's a very personal thing. You know, I like an SB7. I get more that I find interesting. I get a lot that is just out of the air. Like if I have my voice recorder running and I'm asking questions or whatever, I won't get anything on my SB7, but I will get something through my voice recordings. And I like that. I mean, because there's nobody else, you know, there's not any other input. It's just voices. You know, it's my voice, it's who I'm working with's voice, and then it's a spirit response. And, you know, as a rule, they're really clear. What's your favorite ITC device? Because I can't go spend $6,000 for that shack hack, much as I might be tempted to. I've got to hit a lottery to do that. And I just think that, I don't know, I like when I get the responses without a device, you know, because I'll just run a recorder. And I learned that when I was investigating a hospital here in Birmingham, I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was at a abandoned hospital in Birmingham, and we had gone through it. It was a great night, and I'm going to share this because I thought it was so cool, but it was so tragic too. I can't live listen with my regular voice recorders, and I'm in a dark environment. I can't see the gauge, so I don't know that it's picked something up. And I listened to this recording, I guess, a day or two after that investigation. And I asked, and this was a very active place. You know, I got my first shadow figure on video. There were audible things happening, and also a face in a window that was like reacting to us. We thought it was our friend. It was not our friend. But I was leaving the emergency room. We were finishing up. We were fixing to go. It was like the coldest night of the year, and we were getting ready to walk out the door. And I just said, "Did everyone here die of a heart attack?" And when I got home and was listening to this a couple of days later, with no way to go back into that environment, an old man's voice said, "No, they shot me." And he got no response because I didn't hear it. So I don't know what the fix is to that. But that's one of those things that's going to bother me till the cows come home. I really felt like I let him down. So, and now they're tearing that down. So listen to, if you can live listen. I don't know how I could have done it with that, but it's a big deal. So now we are going to the 60 years of UFOs. And this is depicting the Betty and Barney Hill case. So it's Man versus Mammoth, giant birds terrorize Latin America. I hate giant birds. Not really. I like birds. I feed them. Now this table of contents, April 2007, is 60 years of UFO research, the flutter of giant wings. What does that say? Another strange creature found in Scotland's locks. Oh my goodness. I have been in Loch Ness, and that water's cold, and if there is something in there, it's freezing to death. That is some flipping cold water. Goat death investigation. What killed the Angora goat and the dog? Well, that's not good. You can't go to dogs all cry. The cross that talked. Mediums at large. The ghost lady at the governor's house. Monsters at the St. John's River. The Cygnus mystery. Could the Sioux control weather? Then, of course, we've got our standards. But let me see how long that Cygnus mystery is. That was written by Andrew Collins, who I like a lot. He is a fun person. You can see him on Ancient Aliens back in the day. And he's a good conversationalist. I've gotten to enjoy hearing him lecture and having a pretty nice... that is not him. That's not his page. Let's see. What did I miss here? Wrong page. 62, not 68. Because that was could Sioux control the weather, and I don't doubt that they could. And I did have bookmarks in, but apparently there it went. Oh, did cosmic rays affect human evolution? What do you think? I mean, we don't know how long we've been here, right? We know how long that they say that there's recorded history by our species, but there's no true indicator for how long we've actually been here. So, interesting. I think cosmic rays affect everything we do, but that's just me. So, Andrew, what is this picture of? It's got a nice little image. Since the discovery in the 1920s that all types of radiation can cause gene mutations, scientists have wondered what role high-energy cosmic rays might have played in human evolution. Certainly, this was something. Well, you think. I have lost my place. Certainly, this was something taken seriously by astronomer Dr. Carl Sagan, one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century. In 1973, he wrote that human history had been forged by the effects of cosmic rays coming from a distant neutron star, demonstrating how everything in the universe affects everything else. It was a bold notion. That's the truth. Yet one destined never to find favor amongst geneticists, who could find no hard evidence that the background flux of cosmic rays reaching sea level might have had any impact on evolution. Yet now, all this is about to change, for an examination of ice cores extracted from the sites of Antarctica and Greenland is providing detailed information on the level of cosmic rays reaching the Earth in past ages. It comes from the fact that when so-called primary cosmic rays hit the upper atmosphere, they almost always break up to produce a plethora of secondary particles that form isotopes, which fall to Earth and are preserved each year in layers of ice. Boy, don't you know that with global warming, they're probably finding all kinds of stuff as it breaks down. One such isotope is beryllium-10, which has provided clear evidence that on 3 occasions over the past 100,000 years, around 60,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, and 17,000 years ago, there have been extremely intense periods of cosmic ray activity lasting up to 2,000 years at a time. Where exactly this cosmic rays came from has remained a mystery, with the more or less regular gaps between the different periods of activity indicating some kind of cyclic force in action, most obviously connected with our own star, the Sun. Cosmic rays are known to be partially deflected by solar magnetic field that stretches out far into the heart of the solar system, and it is believed that the rate of beryllium-10 production in the upper atmosphere is dependent on the strength of the solar field, which is itself connected with sunspot activity. That said, there might easily have been other factors behind the sudden increase in cosmic rays hitting the Earth, the most catastrophic being a supernova, the death of a star as it expels the last of its nuclear fuel and collapses to become an extremely compact object, either a white dwarf, black hole, or neutron star. Supernovas produce enormous bursts of gamma rays and cosmic rays that are sent out across dozens, if not hundreds, of light years in space. If such an event occurred close enough to our own solar system, then the Earth would be showered with deadly radiation, which might damage the ozone layer, causing not only high levels of cosmic rays, reaching ground level, but also the onset of intense periods of UV radiation. More conservatively, catastrophists have proposed that a close supernova would send a barrage of cosmic particles in our direction, dramatically increasing cloud formation, thus preventing the sun from penetrating through the atmosphere and leading quickly to an ice age. Whatever the consequence of a close supernova, life on Earth would indeed suffer mass extinctions. Indeed, catastrophists believe that such an event caused the termination of the Jurassic Age some 145 million years ago. While in the 1990s, scientists from the Cosmic Ray Council of the Soviet Academy of Sciences worked alongside a group from the University of Arizona using beryllium-10 ice core data as evidence of just such a catastrophe around 35,000 years ago. The culprit, they believed, was a close supernova some 150 light years away in the northern constellation of Cygnus. Today, its remnants appear in the night sky as a mass of glowing clouds and debris known to the astronomers as the Cygnus Veil or Veil Nebula. That cosmic rays may have irradiated the Earth some 35,000 years ago was taken up also by the British anthropologist Dennis Montgomery. He noted that it was around that date our earliest Homo sapien ancestors entered Europe and adopted a complex lifestyle involving intricate religious expression and practices, including detailed funerary rites and new forms of symbolic art, such as the extraordinary painted galleries showing horses, bison, rhinos, and human forms discovered as recently as 1944 at Chauvet in South France. Have y'all ever seen images of those etchings? They're amazing. Dating back some 35,000 years, they are evidence of an enormous change in human thinking, leading to suggestions this might have been the result of gene mutations leading to subtle changes in the brain's neural processes. The theory was seductive, but it had its drawbacks. To start with, it was found that the Cygnus Veil was the result of a supernova, not 150 light years away as had previously been thought, but one 10 times that distance. This meant that it would have no impact whatsoever on Earth, simply the appearance for a few days of a bright new star that would eventually have faded from view. Also damning were recalculations concerning the age of the gaseous clouds making up the Sigma Veil, which is now thought to have occurred as recently as 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. So there was no way that the Cygnus Veil can have been responsible for the high levels of cosmic rays reaching Earth when the first cave artists created underworld Sistine chapels like, Chauvet around 35,000 years ago. Worst of all, astronomers have found no other supernova remnant that might have fitted the picture, demolishing the theory altogether. And, that is something that scientists hate to be proven wrong. They want everything documented. They want to know that they have it right. But you cannot be fully immersed in your science, fully confident in your findings, presenting them to the world, and not have confidence in them. Not everybody is that egocentric. An altogether different scenario was needed, and this was provided in 2005 by Dr. Alan Meinel, a retired veteran of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, who in the 1980s was responsible for the launch of space telescopes like Hubble. He and his colleagues at the Meinel Institute of Pasadena, California, proposed that the true source of the cosmic rays that they see having accelerated human evolution some 40 to 35,000 years ago was a plasma spewing black hole concealed inside a planetary nebula known as the Cat's Eye. Located around 3,300 light years away in Draco, the constellation, now I'm getting tongue-tied, the constellation of the Celestial Dragon. They felt that its cosmic rays might easily have reached the Earth and caused gene mutations in the human body. It was a dramatic claim and one that needed scientific evaluation, which is how I entered this gripping story. My own research into the emergence of primitive societies with their own unique what? I think I read that word wrong. We are going to go back and double check that. Okay. Their own unique cosmologies and religion has revealed an inordinate interest in one particular constellation, Cygnus, the celestial swan. Indeed, it features as the oldest known artistic representation of a constellation anywhere in the world, for it is seen on the walls of the famous Lascaux cave in southern France, occupied by Paleolithic cave artists some 17,000 years ago. It is the same story with the ancient stone and earthen structures worldwide, from the bird effigy mounds of North America to the Olmec centers of Mexico, the Incan sacred city of Cusco, the Egyptian pyramids of Giza, the Hindu temples of India, and Avebury, the largest stone circle in Europe. All reflect an age-old interest in Cygnus, which features also in religious symbolism and beliefs of the heart of Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam, as well as shamanic practices worldwide. Why did our Paleolithic ancestors associate Cygnus with the deepest, darkest part of their painted caves, where shamans achieved altered states of consciousness during induced trance states? The answer came in the form of a chance discovery made during the 1980s by particle physicists using newly operational proton decay detectors located deep underground in Europe and the USA. Unexpectedly, they detected the presence of highly unusual cosmic rays that had penetrated the solid rock to reach such depths, suggesting they came from a very powerful cosmic accelerator indeed. These completely unique, high-energy cosmic rays were found to bear an unmistakable fingerprint of what is arguably the weirdest star system in the whole of our galaxy, Cygnus X3. Located some 35,000 light years away in Cygnus, this X-ray binary star containing either a neutron star or black hole was identified as recently as 2000 as the galaxy's first known blazar, meaning that it produces plasma jets that direct cosmic particles towards the Earth. It's close to the speed of light, something it has been doing for anything up to 700,000 years. Influence of Cygnus. Suddenly, everything started to fall into place. The recorded bursts of cosmic radiation from deep space on at least 3 occasions in human history, and our long-term reverence for Cygnus and the source of cosmic life and death, suggested that Cygnus X3 was the key to solving the mystery. Had the Paleolithic artists and shamans responsible for the art at Lascaux and similar caves across Western Europe become aware of incoming cosmic rays, which are unique in being able to penetrate deep underground? Did these cygnets, as strange particles became known, cause gene mutations, leading eventually to the development of complex mindset? including symbolic art and the first organized societies at the end of the last ice age. Did they catalyze civilizations and, incredibly, even a worldwide religion? Yet Cygnus X3 had a rival in the Cat's Eye Nebula, the favored candidate for cosmic rays hitting the Earth being championed by Aidan Meinel and his colleagues at the Meinel Institute. Unfortunately, however, astrophysicists are unanimous in their opinion that the Cat's Eye is a wimpy object that does not produce jets of cosmic rays strong enough to reach the Earth. I hate when it's a wimpy object. What is more, the Meinels, by their own admission, looked first in Cygnus for a possible point source of high-energy cosmic rays and found none, Cygnus X3 being overlooked. Today, there can be little doubt that Cygnus X3, as our galaxy's first confirmed blazar, is the best candidate by far for at least a portion of the cosmic radiation thought to have affected human evolution. Yet what is more disturbing is that Cygnus X3 is still out there. Its cosmic gun barrel trained on the Earth, ever ready to release a volley of cosmic particles in our direction. It has burst into action 3 times already this year, 2007. And yet astronomers are waiting for what they see as the next Big Bang, showers of cosmic particles on a level never seen before. When that finally happens, we might be ready for the next stage in evolution. Now, Andrew wrote the book, The Cygnus Mystery, and he writes a lot of he is a prolific writer as well as a researcher. And I think that I like his Cygnus theory, but it's just so bizarre to me that, how can we come up and say that we have got this and we are doing all these, because it's all theory at this point. I just think it's so cool. And I really like Andrew Collins. I think that he really is a great writer. So, and he's a nice man on top of that. So, one of the things that I like about getting to go to a lot of the conferences that I've been able to attend is that when I was not doing Fate Magazine when I very first started going to the ancient alien conferences. I was at their very first Alien Con and their second Alien Con. And somewhere in there, I've been to another one. I don't remember what year it was. 2 of them. So total of 4. And, I was doing Paranormal Experienced and got credentialed for the first one. And when I was there, it was such a cool thing because I got to, first I went and found the producer, the creator of it, and his producer, and thanked them because the fact that they let me come, they credentialed me to come and participate as media at this event. I was just a very small show radio host. I had not, I did a paranormal show with a lot of interest in what they do. And I was blown away. They were actually blown away because they expected like 3,000 people. They made gotten a place big enough for 3,000 people. They had over 10,000 people show up. And that was very overwhelming for them. And they handled it with a plume. They moved everything out of the small rooms into the vendor area and worked very hard. That was everybody that's on Ancient Aliens, and a lot of them that weren't regulars but are now, over time. And it was informative and it was cool. And I was so overwhelmed with being able to just go up and talk and ask questions. And they were new too. It was overwhelming to them too. And they were just so excited and such nice people, down to the talent, to the, to everybody. And I've made some friends amongst their personnel. And, I was really lucky because Nick Pope was a friend. I really liked him. We had some great conversations. I got to interview him. I didn't know he was already sick, but he was. And, there's some very good people that do this research, and they are real researchers. I mean, I know they're on television, right? And I know that everybody wants to know just how many rockets Travis is going to shoot off, right? But between Ancient Aliens and Skinwalker, there have been so many things brought to light that some of it is easy to poke fun at, okay? But these are real researchers. Travis Taylor is a real rocket scientist, okay? And in just about every room, he's going to be one of the smartest men in there, with a lot of other guys that think they are the smartest men in there, or women. And they're probably all right at any given moment. So that is the caliber of people that are trying to bring us they're shaping it as entertainment. Skinwalker is entertainment. Ancient Aliens, entertainment. All the others, entertainment. But they're making us think about this stuff. They're making us talk about this stuff. We are being introduced to a lot of different things. It's introducing young people to the power of critical thinking. It's this thing is falling off. I apologize, but it's the critical thinking process. It's the analytical abilities, the chance to be sitting in your recliner at home and going, I bet he's going to shoot off another rocket. Travis Taylor, I admire you. I'm just picking. But yeah, these things are real. And it's not just bursts of stuff. We now have been told that there are flying saucers, there are rocket ships, there, UAP, UFOs. Our government has told us this because they had to, because we're all looking for them. So I think that's kind of fun. And I think that it's a lot from the people that have been working for the last 10 years and more. I mean, Star Trek, that's been a while, right? How many things do we have in our kitchen, in our house, in our cars that were depicted on Star Trek as reality, and people made that reality? I think that's so cool, right? Love my microwave. If I could just get one of the things that just makes it for you and sends it to your food replicator, that would be so good. Somebody work that. But I just think that that's special. I think that I've had such a charmed life doing what I do here. And when I got to add fate to that, it was even more doors opening because of the history of Fate magazine. So followed some pretty good footsteps too. My friend Chase Klotsky was the host of Fate magazine when I met her at a paranormal investigation event at Sloss Furnace. And then she was doing a live feed from Sloss. And now I'm the host of Fate Magazine Radio, which is kind of a cool beans thing, right? And it's pretty special. Now, I just love this cover. My very first episode of Fate Magazine Radio was a Mothman show. And I interviewed Andrew, who is the curator at the Mothman Museum. And that was an interesting experience for me because I had never known very much about that kind of research. I've never known very much about any of the Mothman story, really. I was a ghost hunter and a ufology researcher. And for my own curiosity, not because I was doing a whole lot of getting out there and, getting picked up by a spacecraft. So, but look at this art. One thing that has always been outstanding about Fate magazine, aside from the number of authors and where they come from, is the cover art. It is since 1947, this has been what Fate magazine looks like. I'm serious. I have a copy of the first edition. This is what it came out as. It's beautiful. And every one of them has been gorgeous. The new one, which it's on another shelf. I'm sorry, I was reading it. But I'll show you next week. But the cover's absolutely gorgeous. So, are you ready? I think I am too. Let's see. I had this, I see by the papers, new activity at Area 51. This is in September of 2007. I mainly just stayed in 2007 for this. But I like it because this is about somebody that I respect a lot. He's kind of hard to talk to, but that's just because everybody wants to talk to him. And that happens sometimes. Just because somebody's not interacting a lot doesn't mean that they're not interested or have something to say. What that means is they are trying not to get held up as they're working through to get to who they need to talk to in the room. Don't ever take it personally if you ever run into this guy. But reporter George Knapp for KLAS TV in Las Vegas reports that something big is in the works at Nevada's legendary Area 51 military base. A massive new building is under construction at the top secret desert location. Some aviation experts speculate the building might be home to a new, highly classified aircraft project, possibly the successor to the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. Photographs of the new building have Area 51 researchers buzzing. It probably measures 275 feet by 600 feet. It's no larger than hangars at other bases, but it certainly is the largest at Area 51. Aviation historian and Area 51 buff Peter Merlin said. Satellite photos confirm Area 51 already has 24 hangars, including some that are less than 2 years old, which invite the question, why the need for this new behemoth? What's going on out there? I find it interesting that they put the dimensions in that. That's just not what you would expect. But you know what? Phyllis found it in the paper. Secrets of, I don't know how to say this, Wenxi Wang. Chinese archaeologists say that after 5 years of research, they have now confirmed that there is a 30-meter high chamber buried within the pyramid-like tomb. Pyramid-like tomb of Wang, who became the first emperor of unified China over 2,000 years ago in 221 BC. Been a while. The research on the mausoleum's internal structure began in 2002 with remote sensing technology. Thus far, the Chinese government has not allowed the site to be physically excavated. In the 1970s, about 1,500 terracotta warriors and horses were unearthed from pits surrounding the site, leading some to speculate that this hidden chamber within the tomb could tell untold wonders. Do y'all remember when they found those? Most of y'all are probably too young. But I remember those terracotta soldiers, and I thought that was the neatest thing because they were gorgeous. The carving was beautiful. I just thought it was neat. But the Fortean Seven Wonders. Inspired by the new Seven Wonders project that recently made headlines, the Charles Fort Institute has announced its own Seven Wonders poll, the Seven Fortean Wonders of the World. Nominations will be taken via email to CFI through September 30th and should consist of 14 places, locations, or artifacts. Voting on finalists will begin October 1st at the Institute's website, which, by the way, www.fortean.org, FORTEANA.org, and will continue through the end of November. We'll be sure to follow up on the story once the votes have been tallied. Charles Fort Institute. Yeah, this was one I didn't like. Setback for space tourism. Sad news report out of the Mojave, California, where an explosion at the Mojave Desert Airport has killed 3 people and injured 3 others during testing of a new space tourism vehicle. The company performing the testing, Scaled Composites, is headed by aerospace engineer Burt Rutan, who made history in 2004 when his Spaceship One captured the $10 million X Prize by becoming the first private manned rocket to reach space. Since that milestone, Rutan has teamed up with British billionaire Richard Branson to build a fleet of commercial space tourism vehicles dubbed Spaceship Two. Earlier this year, Branson told a trade show the new space vehicle would be ready for flight tests within a year and would begin carrying passengers in 2009. So far, neither Branson nor Rutan has commented on how this tragic setback will affect their company's space tourism plans. And, I would be a space tourist. I would. I would try my very best anyway. I'm probably going to be too old by the time they start, though. Actually, it has started. So a lot of women in spacesuits go up to the atmosphere, right? So, 6 new species. A once lost forest in Africa has yielded 6 new animal species, members of an expedition have revealed. The new species include a bat, a rodent, 2 shrews, and 2 frogs. They were discovered earlier this year just west of Lake Tanganyika in the war-torn Republic of Congo, within a remote wooded area that has been off-limits to scientists for half a century. The expedition members also collected a number of plants and say numerous new species are likely to emerge from those specimens as well. Local botanists were unable to identify some 10% of the plants. Said Wildlife Conservation Society researcher Andrew Humphrey, "If we can find 6 new species in such a short period, makes you wonder what else is out there." I love that. Let's see. Yes. The Zecharia Sitchin article. I think that Sitchin was one of those people that everybody's heard of, but not everybody is entirely sure what he's about. And Phyllis, the owner of Fate Magazine, was able to interview Sitchin. And you can see that interview on YouTube. And Phyllis is a brilliant human, absolutely a brilliant human. She and her running buddies have contributed so much to all types of anomalous topics. Rosemary Ellen Gully was her best girlfriend. I cannot think of Linda's last name. Good Lord. But she was a cryptids person. And between the 2 of them, with Phyllis, they have contributed so much to this field. And I just think I don't have enough good words for Phyllis Golding. Broke the mold when they made her. Now, this is predicting the end of days. And and this is by Zecharia. So, in a recent column, Fate, August 2007, I see by the papers, Phyllis Gotti quoted an item from a London weekly attributing to Sir Isaac Newton the prediction that the world will end in the year 2060. As so many times before, Phyllis's selection provides just a glimpse of a more profound subject. The item's heading, The End of Days, happens to be the title of my latest book, which the subject of Newton's calculations is thoroughly discussed. Best known for his formulation of the natural laws governing celestial motions, such as planets orbiting the sun, Newton's interests also lay in religious thought, and he wrote lengthy treatises about the Bible and biblical prophecy. He considered the celestial motions that he formulated to be the mechanism of God, and he strongly believed that the scientific discovery that began with Galileo and Copernicus were continued by him were meant to happen the way when they did. They led him to pay particular attention to the mathematics of Daniel, and as many since then, he too wondered what the angel's statement to Daniel that the end of days shall occur after times and a half had meant. In the end of days, I showed that the only plausible conclusion must be that the times and a half of Daniel were a terminology referring to zodiacal ages. That Sir Isaac Newton pondered the possibility some 3 centuries ago came to light in March 2003 when the British Broadcasting Corporation revealed the existence of a document handwritten by Newton himself, front and back, that calculated the end of days according to Daniel's prophecies. Newton wrote his numerical calculations on one side of the sheet and his analysis of the calculations as 7 propositions on the paper's other side. A close examination of the document, a photocopy of which I am privileged to have, not me, him, reveals that the numbers he used in the calculations include 216 and 2,160 several times. This served as a clue to me to understand what his line of thought was. He was thinking of zodiacal time, because mathematically, the zodiacal shift of 1 degree in 72 years means that each zodiacal house of 30 degrees lasts 2,160 years. Newton summed up his conclusions by writing down a set of 3 not before and a not later than timetables for Daniel's prophetic clues. Between AD 2132 and 2370, according to one clue given to Daniel, between AD 2090 and 2374, according to a second clue, between AD 2060 and 2370 for the crucial times and a half. Sir Isaac Newton predicted the world would end in the year 2060. The BBC announced, not exactly, but as the time of zodiacal ages in my book shows, he was not far off the mark, and 2 of his not earlier than dates. My own conclusions were arrived at after a review of historical events, celestial observations in antiquity, and a close reading of biblical prophecies. To know my own final verdict, I suggest reading my book, The End of Days, Armageddon, and the Prophecies of the Return. A nice sales pitch there, sir, but he is so cool. Was so cool. Let's see. Oh, we're going to move to the next one. What do you think of that? You think it's possible that we were given a solution to when the end of times are? So many people in so many different time periods have been sure 110% that the world was ending. And we've had times in my lifetime where, everybody was at church and doing a youth group and everybody was sitting together and, terrified because the world was going to end. I can think of 2 times. So there's that. This one is the Haunted Inns one. Isn't that a great cover? That would be James Dean's Death Car. And John Wilkes Booth escaped the Manhunt is also in here. And my good friend Rick McCollum, a descendant of John Wilkes Booth, has voiced that opinion to me also. So, let's see. Oh, are y'all familiar with the infield ghost? No? It's a poltergeist. We might read that one. Let's go look and see how long that is. I don't think I have it marked. I always wished I could turn pages. I'm always fascinated by poltergeists because, you know, noisy ghosts. I have friends that have experienced them. I have not experienced them. I don't know. We can probably go over and read some of the things that happened. But the Innsfield ghost, poltergeist, that's probably the most documented case of a haunting of all time. But this is the I see by the papers, and that is a terrific photo of Phyllis back then. Still beautiful. Let's see. I see by the papers, a group in Dessau, Germany, has obtained funding from the German Federal Cultural Foundation and has hired famed architect Rem Koolhaas as an advisor in the quest to build the world's largest structure, a new version of the Great Pyramid. The new German pyramid, once completed, will be a mind-boggling 10 times larger than the Great Pyramid of the Gaza Plateau in Egypt. It will stand about 1,900 feet tall and take an estimated 30 years to complete. Dubbed a tomb for all people, the pyramid will act as a communal tomb for people from around the world who choose to purchase space within it. And that is at thegreatpyramid.org. You would have thought that website was already taken. So, and this was 2007. So it's close, right? Should be done. Now this interests me, Noah's Ark imaging, because I have heard so many, all of my life, I've heard, well, they found it, they didn't. They found it, they didn't. I want to see Noah's Ark. 3 high-tech companies are joining forces in the search for evidence of Noah's Ark on Turkey's Mount Ararat. The effort involves GeoEye, Satellite Imaging Corporation, and Space Turk. Satellite Imaging Corporation of Houston, Texas, is creating a 3D terrain model of the Mount Ararat anomaly, making use of stereo satellite image data from GeoEye to create a flyover simulation of the site in remote northeastern Turkey. The new 3D model will be the most sophisticated image of the area to date, and things will get clearer still within the year as a new GeoEye satellite capable of even higher resolution images is launched. You know, I just would love to see that. This was 2007. I think I'm going to go and see what I found. Oh, this is interesting because I personally, I just don't try to go get anything that is a number 666, but it shows up periodically. The San Francisco Taxi Commission recently rejected a plea by the distraught holder of San Francisco's taxicab medallion number 666, Michael Byrne, to retire the number. But in a 5-1 vote, the commission decided against retiring cab 666 on the grounds that it might lead to a deluge of requests to retire other numbers as well. Byrne, a 30-year veteran driver who was assigned the number in 2006, cited a string of bad luck and misfortune that has befallen him since being given the beastly digits. But in the end, the commission's Vice President, Patricia Breslin, was not swayed. Where does it end? I lived in a dress of 666, and I did not go over to the dark side, she said. That was in the San Francisco Chronicle. Sounds like maybe she did. The Haunted Mortuary. A new multi-million-dollar paranormal tourist attraction in New Orleans, named the Haunted Mortuary, is about to open its doors to the public for the first time. 6 weeks of events and tours this fall will culminate in the center's official grand opening in January 2008. The interactive paranormal observatory, lab, and museum will offer a parapsychology field laboratory, paranormal museums exhibits, ghost expeditions, self-guided and guided facility tours with exhibit and experiment interaction, special screenings of documentaries and feature films, metaphysical classes, workshops and presentations, and an upscale metaphysical boutique, and a Paranormal Hall of Fame exhibit inside its 3-story, 14,000 square foot facility. HauntedMortuary.com. I would bet that that is not there because of Katrina, probably. But it would be worth a Google, wouldn't it? So, hauntedmortuary.com. I will tell you, if you want to find something cool, paranormal in New Orleans, I have a girlfriend who has a haunted museum there. It is Bloody Mary. She is Mary. Her name is Mary Mylan. She goes by Bloody Mary. She is a fixture in New Orleans. She is who coordinates the New Orleans Paranormal Conference. She has the best museum. And if I have questions about the paranormal, she is somebody I go to. She is intelligent. She is resourceful. She's one of the best researchers. When I finally, because I'd interviewed her a couple of times, I finally got to connect with her when I was in New Orleans for my husband's poker tournament and went on a tour with her. It was so cool. Met all these women from New York who were great people. Had a great time. And she bought the North Rampart Street Murder House and put a haunted museum in there. It is brilliant. She is brilliant. If you are in New Orleans and want to go on a paranormal tour, her business is Bloody Mary's Tours, and she has some of the best artifacts in her museum. She is a voodoo queen. She has, I don't like snakes, just for the record. When I connected with her, I went on a tour. We went to her house on that tour, and she had to go upstairs and do something. And she said, I know you just stay down here with the guests and, I'll be right back. So I'm just standing there and she's got different altars set up in her downstairs. And I'm standing next to one and there was a snake in it. And I was done, just done. But it was interesting because she taught me different ways to interact with older spirits, and it was cool. I also learned that your grave can be repossessed in New Orleans. If your family doesn't pay taxes on the property, because it's considered property, and you have to pay property tax on a grave. And if your family doesn't, then you're evicted, as it were. So that's something to consider. I learn a lot of cool, interesting, and off-the-wall things every time I talk to Mary Mylan. Y'all, guys, if you go to New Orleans, go see her. The Murder House on North Rampart Street, that's the Bloody Mary Museum, and she will do you a tour. She is so good. So good. She is, she's a native from New Orleans. You don't come across just that many of those there, and she is brilliant. But she is pretty cool. Now, and boy, did I go off on a tangent, didn't I? Sorry about that. But But it is cool because, haunted mortuaries, haunted hospitals. How many haunted hospitals have you investigated? I've investigated a few. None as good as Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. I have had so much activity on multiple visits there. And Ronnie Dees was supposed to be coming on with me. A few weeks ago, my daughter-in-law started chemotherapy. It ran late. I had to cancel the show. We haven't got it rescheduled yet, but he'll be here. But there's so many items that Mary has that's interesting that come out of haunted hospitals. And she has stuff that are centuries old. And if you meet her, ask her about skulls. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, let's see what else. What else? Let's see. Oh, no, we only have 10 minutes. I'll have to do this one because this is for my friend Rick McCollum, who I already got to mention because he's related to John Wilkes Booth. But this is someplace that my friend Rick loves to go. Too much light. This is the Glen Tavern Inn. And he has had so many haunted experiences there. And this is the article by Richard Sennett. So we're going to just kind of whiz bang through this. Some places seem charged with as yet unexplained power. Such sites exhibit odd phenomena. Some psychic researchers call these spots psychic vortexes. It seems that these zones somehow bend time and space in a whirlwind of supernatural energy. Here, people find their natural psychic ability is enhanced and the past and present blend together. One such spot is the lobby of the Glen Tavern Inn, located in Santa Paula, California. A phantom party. Over the years, a number of strange things have happened here. Not long ago, front desk clerks Susan and Charles Pardue witnessed a manifestation common to the psychic vortex. Retrocognition. Psychic vortex retrocognition. Visions from the past. It was late at night when the two were relaxing on the lobby couch. They saw misty figures slowly appear. There were transparent images in pairs dancing as an unseen piano played songs of long ago. It was as if a phantom party had materialized in the room. Susan compared it to the dancing ghost scene at the Disneyland Haunted Mansion attraction. Not only did the phantoms fill the chamber, but they brought with them an emotion of merriment and joy. The two felt themselves compelled to rise up from the couch, embrace, and start dancing as well, joining the ghosts in the revels. As suddenly as the vision came, it was gone. For a brief time, a festive moment from the inn's past had merged into the present. Miss Pardue still feels, in her words, honored to have been a part of it all. Their experience isn't unique. Strange glimpses from the past are not the only psychic events that make themselves known in the lobby. Many have witnessed ghostly figures wandering here. The apparition of a young woman in a long dress and several playful children are reported. Are these true phantoms or echoes of the past? Since its construction in 1911, the Glen Tavern Inn has seen a great deal of history. Once the three-storied inn was the social center of the valley. Everyone who was anyone crossed over its threshold, from movie stars to captains of industry. In the early years of the 20th century, the inn prospered as the oil industry and orange ranching, Sunkist and Union 76 both began there, put Santa Paula on the map. One of the ghosts, perhaps the best known specter at the inn, is linked to the days when silent films were made in Santa Paula. The bearded figure in the fringed leather coat is called Calvin, but his real name is unknown. The legend states he was a real Westerner who worked for a movie company cranking out 2 real Westerns. He has once worked for Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and dressed the part. After the company was paid each week, all-night poker parties were held on the 3rd floor of the inn. It seemed that Calvin always won. At the end of the night, he would place his winnings into a special bag. This went on for weeks until one fateful night, Calvin was caught cheating. Pistols were drawn and a single shot went off. Calvin was dead. The crew justified their deed, and rather than inform the police, who didn't look with favor on the moving picture people, they disposed of the body themselves, vowing to forever keep silent about their crime. Calvin's body was taken down the dumbwaiter and buried somewhere on the grounds. One psychic felt he was dumped down an unused well. After disposing of the body and cleaning up the blood, the crew went into Calvin's room to reclaim their money. The bag wasn't there. Calvin had hidden the treasure somewhere in the inn, and it is lost to this very day. Calvin, always a ladies' man, is seen in front of and inside the ladies' restroom, just off the lobby. Calvin haunts the whole place with the most persistent encounters on the 3rd floor. Susan Pardo once lived in room 302 on the 3rd floor and recalls several encounters with Calvin. The TV set would go on and off by itself. Once a towel in the bathroom inexplicably flew down to the floor. A girlfriend visited the place and upon hearing the story of Calvin, wanted to encounter him. She verbalized her request and then a soft knock was heard at the door. When they checked, there was no one there. The smell of a strong cigar is manifested in the stairwell from time to time. Could this be Calvin enjoying a cheroot in the afterlife? The smell of perfume also drifts on the stairs. And is this one of Calvin's spirit girlfriends coming to call? From time to time, psychic groups and ghost hunters have visited the place, and each group has come away convinced that the hotel is haunted. They frequently photograph telltale orbs and record odd sounds like children playing and snatches of conversation. Psychic events have recently been recorded in rooms 223, 107, and 109. Not long ago, the ghosts made themselves known when a fire swept through the one end of the inn. Now the old landmark is slowly being restored back to its former glory. It is back to its former glory. The ghosts, as it seems, have returned to their old patterns with a new focus on the lobby. The restaurant is, at this time, still out of commission, but the hotel is open on a limited basis. If anyone is in search of ghosts, they have but to check into the Glen Tavern Inn, spend a sleepless night in the lobby, and see for themselves. You may come away, like many others before you, convinced that here the past and present mix, and the spirits of long ago are never far away. The Glen Tavern Inn is indeed a unique place. And that was also written by my friend Richard Sennett. So there's that. And I want to tell you that I appreciate so much you being here. I every so often love doing these shows and sharing articles out of Fates of Old and just letting you know about it. It's such a great magazine. And it's got such a long history. It's a cool thing. But I appreciate you. Be blessed. Have a great week. Go out and be the person that you want to meet. Have a great time. And just remember that you are so special. Be blessed. Have a great time. And we will see you next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. Good night.